Tonight's worst persons in the world. Guess who the winner is? The bronze to Congresswoman, yes, she's still a Congresswoman, Jean Schmidt of Ohio, whose smearing of Congressman Jack Murtha of Pennsylvania as a coward on the House floor was pretty much the high water mark for the Bush administration's control of society. A Tea Party event Monday in Cincinnati.
I have to take some. I'm sorry.
I was the chief architect of the first balanced budget.
If it were not bad enough that Schmidt is a mean-spirited, unhappy person who seems bent on spreading those emotions, she's also a complete hypocrite. In July, amid rumors that she was a birther, she released a statement saying she believed the president was a natural-born citizen of the United States. So she was either lying then, or she was lying at that fool at that Tea Party. Either way, she's a pandering, manipulative liar, and she should resign from the House of Representatives. Runners-up, David Bean, Todd Harmonson, Keith Sharon, sports editors of the newspaper The Orange County Register. At least once a career, no matter how good, every columnist, every commentator will write something so bad, so inappropriate that the editor will just have to kill it. Mr. Bean and Mr. Harmonson and Mr. Sharon failed to do this. The usually thoughtful Mark Wicker, 22 years at that paper, went totally tone deaf. He wrote a sports column about the kidnapping of J.C. Dugard, who had been held in captivity in the backyard of a pedophile since 1991. The column begins, "It doesn't sound as if J.C. Dugard got to see a sports page. Box scores were not available to her from June 10, 1991 until August 31 of this year. She never saw a highlight, never got to the ballpark for beach towel night, probably hasn't high-fived in a while. She was not allowed to spike a volleyball or pitch a softball or smack a forehand down the line or run in a 5-footer for double bogey. Now that's deprivation." No, deprivation is being held prisoner for 18 years, raped repeatedly, forced to bear the children of a psychopath. It is not knowing that the Angels won the World Series during your ordeal. The rest of the column was just a list of all the less likely sports results since she was kidnapped as an 11-year-old, and somehow it got worse. Remember where this woman was held, in a family backyard. And ball players, who always invent the slang no matter what ESPN would have you believe, came up with an expression for a home run that you might appreciate. Congratulations, JC, you left the yard. Mark Wicker will take his lumps for this, deservedly so. It might cost him his job. He has tonight apologized, and abjectly so. He wrote, "It's impossible to unring a bell or to bring back a column that has already been transmitted. In many ways, the damage is done. I'm hopeful that I can be forgiven for this lapse of professionalism." But you're the guys reading this, deciding whether or not it gets published, and you say, great. You are in over your head, gentlemen. But our winner, and speaking of that, Congressman Joe Wilson of South Carolina, not only interrupting the President of the United States during his joint address to Congress and to the nation on this extraordinarily important subject, but interrupting the President of the United States to call him, before the eyes of the world, a liar. It is bad enough that Mr. Wilson was factually wrong. Mr. Obama was not lying when he said health care reform will not pay to cover illegal immigrants. That's why Section 246 of the bill is called No Federal Payment for Undocumented Aliens. Bad enough that Mr. Wilson lowered the level of discourse at a moment when the country hungers for a higher level of discourse, except that moron Karl Rove, who laughed at this on Fox and thought it was really funny that Wilson said it. But it also turns out that Mr. Wilson is himself not telling the truth here, not merely about the immigrants, but about, yes, the lie that Mr. Obama called out, death panels. An op-ed column he wrote on August 27th, Wilson wrote that reimbursing doctors for counseling patients at the end of their lives, quote, has been correctly highlighted by former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin as a program which could lead to seniors being encouraged to seek less care in order to protect the government's bottom line. No, sir. Nothing in that bill leads American doctors to encourage seniors to seek less care. As even Republicans have affirmed, end-of-life counseling leads to better care and patients who are less anxious, less scared, less confused. In other words, Mr. Wilson, you lie. Congressman Joe Wilson of South Carolina, today's worst person in the world in a landslide.